Hello everyone and welcome. It's Shanna. So glad you're here today. Now we have got a super fun collection that is a new release at Spellbinders. It's by Simon Hurley and it's called Halloween Hugs. Included in this collection is this little die set here that is called Wickedly Sweet. And you can make a witch with this little gal, or you can make a little princess that with Your Magical sentiment. So we've got Hocus Pocus and Your Magical. And the next little die set is called Frank. And we've got Frank, and Frank has a Halloween pumpkin that you could collect your treats in. There is a tombstone with a skull, a spider. We've got Trick or Treat and Let's Party. There are 26 dies with that. The next set is Drac. There are 19 cutting dies with this. We've got Drac, and in his hand is a golden goblet drink. And we have got a couple of sentiments, Happy Halloween, and You Are Fang-tastic. We've got Moon and some bats. And then finally, we've got Sir Skeleton. And with him, he has a hat, he's got a reading glass, a bow tie, and he's got Boo to You and Happy Haunting as of sentiments. There is also a press and foil plate that is included with this kit. It is called Spooky Sentiments. We've got Happy Halloween, Boo to You, Trick or Treat, Happy Haunting, You're Fang-tastic, You're Wicked Cool, and Hey Boo. We're going to use a lot of those on our cards today. So I'm going to first start with our better press, and I have sped this up. I'm just using some black glimmer foil, and I'm going to just use some fog cardstock and get it laid down on there. And you can see my timer is going. It is heated up. I'm going to bring in my Platinum 6. And as soon as my timer's ready, we'll just run it through there. And I love these sentiments because you can, foil a bunch of them at once and die cut them out at one time as well. I love when you can run one press and get several sentiments, and this is perfect for it. And these are really nice. I like the font and the way that they cut, and so it makes a nice collection of Halloween sentiments that you can use. So we'll get them all popped out of here, and then we'll get to assembling all of our little characters. I've already got all of my die cutting done, so you won't have to sit and watch that. But we're going to have quite a bit of assembly. This is going to be a long video, and I have sped it up and edited it where I could. But because we've got 4 different characters that we are assembling, it is just going to take a little bit of time. We are going to start off with our Wickedly Sweet die set. And I'm not going to do the princess on today's video. I am hoping that I'll get back around to it so I can make a princess. I think that'll be a cute little die set for a little girl's birthday party. I think that'll be super fun. But today we're going to focus on the Halloween elements and get everything set up. So I'm just going to get the elements for the face and get it assembled. As you could see, you can slide the head right up into the hair of the gal and position it. I'll show you that as we move along. I'm laying the whites of her eyes down there. I actually used fog cardstock for that. Most of the white looking pieces that we're using today is fog, and I just chose to use that for. And I'm going to show you, I'm bringing the die back in because I want to make mention that you can get the assembly pages off of Spellbinders' website. You just have to scroll through the pictures and find them. You can print them off, and I'll show you probably each and every one of them. I think the only one I didn't print was the skeleton because I thought it was pretty self-explanatory, all of the pieces. So this is the black part of the eye, and it has a circle die cut out of it so that you'll have like a white pupil. And I'm just going to get it laid down on there. I suppose you could do that in the other direction and make it black on the bottom and white on the top, but I've chosen to do it this way just because it's Halloween-y and I think it looks kind of spooky scary. So next we have the little pieces for the mouth, and I'm going to get them laid down on there. The eyebrows are die cut out of the green as well, so you have some pieces for that. All of the characters except for, I think, the skeleton have got similar mouth pieces and eyebrow pieces that you can die cut out. Now I'm using the metallic black, the mirrored black cardstock from Spellbinders. I was going to do some ink blending on these characters, but I thought with the mirrored black cardstock, I I think I wanted them to look cleaner with that because it's really shiny and fresh. So I decided to leave my characters non-ink blended and just kind of go with the color of cardstock that I've chosen here. And so that's what we're going to do. So I've got a darker purple for the headband of the hat, and then I'm bringing in some of the treasured gold cardstock for the buckle on the witch's hat. And we'll just get it layered down on there. And it's coming together very nicely. Now with the mirrored cardstock, you kind of have to keep your fingerprints and your glue off of it. So you're going to see me bring in the towel several times as I move along this video to kind of clean up pieces, parts. Now I have evidently forgot to die cut something out. So I'm going to look at it, and I'm realizing I didn't die cut her teeth or her tongue out. Now, I did for some of the other characters, but for her, I missed that particular die. So I'm just going to grab some poppy cardstock. Actually, no, I don't think I used poppy on this. I used poppy for the other ones. I just grabbed a scrap out of my bin here. I'm not sure what this is. It could be one of the Christmas Reds from Spellbinders. And we'll just get this die cut out. I'm just going to bring in my little scout, and we'll just run these pieces through. And the teeth should be white and the tongue should be red. So I've got a strip of red and a strip of white. I'm going to take a piece of tape just so I can keep them lined up there together. And then I'm just going to split the die on the two different colors, and then I don't have to die cut it out more than once or die cut it out in white and color in with red. I think one of them I did die cut out in white and colored in red, but this works very well. You can get two different colors when you've got a die that has two things on it and you want two different colors. You can do it this way and it works very nicely. So I cleaned up the mess, and we're going to come back in and we're going to tuck, because I've already laid the black, the shadow in the mouth. I'm going to tuck the teeth up in there, and then I'm going to tuck the tongue in there. And the way that I glued it on the head, I made it fairly simple to tuck those in. So I didn't glue too closely to it. So it gave me some room for that. I did that intentionally so maybe the glue wouldn't seep out onto that mirrored cardstock, and it kind of worked out to be a benefit since I didn't have the teeth or the tongue in there. So I'm just cleaning up any glue that might have made a mess, and there we go. And you can see this head just slides right up into the hair, and there's debossed detail on the green face so that I know where to line that hair exactly up. And I'm just adding some glue back there just to hold her in place. And I'm not gluing the chin area because I'm going to be tucking her dress up underneath there. And continuing to clean up glue with my rag. And then we'll just start to bring in some of the other elements. So this is her dress, and I've chosen the mirrored cardstock for it. I've got fog for her little collar, and we'll get it laid down on there. And I'm just using my finger to kind of blot up the glue so that it doesn't smear too badly. And then you've got some buttons that go underneath that dress as well, and I use the fog cardstock for that as well. It's a tongue twister there. And I'm just going to put some glue around there, and we'll get these pieces laid down, give them a little press, and they'll be good to go. So I spent the morning just die cutting and preparing for this, and really I've been in the craft room almost the entire day, with the exception the grandkids stopped by to pick up their bikes to go to the park. Their dad came on the golf cart and picked up their bikes and was going to take them down to the park, and then he was going to take them to McDonald's after they got done and got something to eat, and he did. And then they wound up back here at the house. So now I'm going to add the buckle onto the belt and get it laid down there and get it positioned. And anyway, they were extremely tired because it was, kind of getting late in the afternoon, and they'd been on their bikes, and then they went to get something to eat. And so then they wanted to lay down. So I tried to get them to lay down and take a nap for a minute. I thought, well, they could rest, and then their dad could go home for a little bit and get some stuff done. But they would not give up. So they just laid down for a little bit, watched some of their favorite shows, and then we packed them up, and they went on their way and probably fell asleep on the way home, and he'll probably get them laid down anyway. So these are the arms or the sleeves to the black dress, and we're going to get them assembled on here and just give them a little press. Now, Pat has been, while I've been in the craft room all day, he has been in the kitchen all day. His canning season has started, and he has been busy, doing all the canning and everything. And when he finishes up his canning for the day, I'm gonna get my hands laid down here in my sleeves. I'm going to need to get in there and work with some of the other things that he doesn't can. I've got green peppers and cucumbers and onions and different things like that I'm going to need. I've already stuffed some of the green peppers. I'm going to need to stuff some more. I'm going to slice and dice some. I like to freeze them and slice and dice them and put them up for the winter, so I can just grab diced green peppers or sliced green peppers whenever I need them to add to whatever I want. And so I'll do that. And I'm going to look up some other recipes of some different things I can do with some green peppers, because we have got a bunch coming on. So here's her witch's hat, and I'm going to get it laid down on her head and get it positioned. And she's coming together. Now I think we've got everything of her together except for her broom. And so I'll give you a quick look at her. I think it turned out nice. And I wasn't sure about using all of that mirrored cardstock on them, but I like the result, and I do like the fact that I kept them kind of clean and I didn't ink blend. So here's her broom. I've just got a darker brown and then a lighter craft colored cardstock that I did the brush part of the broom, and we've just got her all assembled. So we're just going to lay her aside, and I'm going to assemble all of my characters before we build any cards, because I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to do tags, if I was going to put cards together or what. And in the absence of knowing what I was going to do, I thought I'll just assemble all of these, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do. Now, we cut out there because my sister called me, and so I had to take a break and talk to her. She'd had somebody strange parked in front of her house and had hit her trash can, and so I talked with her, and then she talked with Pat for a little bit, and then I got back to my crafting. So here's one where I just die cut the pieces out, one in white and then the other one that I wanted red, and I just brought in my red Copic marker and colored it in. You can certainly do that as well, or you can kind of split the cardstock like I did on the other one. So again, we've got the eyebrows, and we have got the back shadow piece to the mouth, and then we've also got some teeth and a tongue. So for these teeth, these are not as fangy as Drax, but they are kind of, well, he's got a big wide space between his teeth. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to get the tongue laid down there, and then we'll get the teeth. And I'm going to try to do it this way and then lay it on top, but I'll wind up having to kind of finagle it around like I did the other one, because they kind of move on me because of the metallic, but we got them down there. And you will see that the top portion, I don't think I've drawn attention to it yet. I'm getting the eyeballs laid down on there. But you will notice that the top right side of his head is missing a little. It's kind of got a weird angle on it. It moved on my cardstock when I was die cutting it out, and it kind of clipped a little bit of the top of his head. But it doesn't matter because we've got his hair that's going to cover it up. So I wasn't worried, and I didn't worry about die cutting it out again. Now I'm putting the screws on the side of his head, and the screws actually have two pieces to it. I had die cut them out, one in the anchor cardstock, and then the other in the fog, and I lost one of the fog pieces, and so I thought, you don't need it. It's just an extra layer to add an extra color to it, so I didn't use it. And so we're just going to lay this down on here. And we've got our little screws for our Frank. And now I'm going to cover up the head. That's where I kind of pointed out where I was missing the corner of his head. And it doesn't matter because the hair is going to cover it up. And we won't worry about that. So just blotting them off. I've got that green towel off to the side. So every time I blot something and then my arm goes over there, I'm cleaning my finger off. So there we go. He's coming together. Now I die cut his body out in the wrong color. I needed it to be the color of his face because you've got his neck there. So I just took a little bit of green and just die cut the top of that and then laid it on that purple piece. And then that took care of that little problem for me. I do have a purple shirt. It's a different color purple. And I've got a light purple or lavender trim piece that I've laid down on there. And then there's a little line that shows you where to line up his head. And then you can see just a little bit of his green neck. And that's why I had to add that piece on top of that purple body piece that I thought I was die cutting the shirt out, but I was actually die cutting out the base of the body. There's a base of the body, and then there's this purple shirt that has the little etched detail on it, and I didn't know what I was die cutting out at the time, so that's why I had two purple pieces there, but I needed that green just to cover up the neck. And so I'm getting his jacket laid down on here. He's kind of got it's almost like a torn tuxedo jacket because he's got some lapel pieces here that I'm adding the anchor cardstock, or actually a darker gray cardstock on the anchor, and it'll just make the lapel pieces stand out. And then he's got some shirt sleeves that are torn, and we'll get those added as well. And then his purple shirt's got a torn edge as well. So his clothes have really been through the ringer here. So these are the sleeves. And then I'm just going to there's a line on there so that you know exactly, how deep to put them behind your jacket. And there we go. And then we've got some hands. And his hands are significantly bigger than our little princess, our little wickedly sweet gal. Hers are more dainty and his are more masculine. So I'm getting those laid down there. Now we've got the pumpkin basket, and there's an interesting shaped die that goes behind it. What it does is it fills in the face, but it also fills in the top of the basket. So it's kind of an interesting shape. And there is etched detail on there so that you can line your eyes and your mouth up to it and just get it right on there perfectly. And then I also use the mirrored cardstock for the handle, and I will have a heck of a time getting it attached. It just doesn't want to stick because it takes a minute for that mirrored cardstock to stick, and then getting glue on your glass mat, you're gluing it to your glass mat, so I'll kind of struggle with that. Finally, I'll just bring in the tweezers, and then I'm just going to lift it up, pinch it together, put the tweezers on there, and then lay it aside to let it glue. I actually bring in 2 sets of tweezers so that I can get both handles clipped down, and we're just going to lay that aside, let that dry, and I'm going to work on something else while that's drying so that it'll get a good adherence. So I've got the tombstone, and there are actually 4 pieces to the tombstone and then the decorative skeleton to it. So you've got the base of it, you've got kind of the, what I'm going to call this is a decorative element, just so that you have like a raised element there. And then there's a footer, what I'm going to call the footer to it. And then there's a kind of a highlight to the footer that you're going to lay on there as well. And so I've just got 3 different colors of kind of grayish cardstock that I'm going to use on this with the fog, and then these 2 colors of gray here. And so I'm going to use the metallic for the back of the skeleton's head, and then the fog for the top of the skeleton's head. And then we'll just get it lined up, and we're going to get it laid down on our tombstone. Now he also has some spiders that are included with his set, and so I've die cut a couple of those out, and we've got those laying there. We won't do anything with them until we get ready to assemble our card. I think I do glue one down on the tombstone because I know it's going to go there, so I go ahead and do that, and then I'll save the other one for later. And then we have got Frank all assembled, and that's his pieces. Now there are some sentiments. There's Trick or Treat and Let's Party. Here's his little pumpkin basket. And I've die cut out Let's Party in orange, and I'm going to lay it on some of the mirrored black cardstock. Now, I don't wind up using these types of sentiments because I decide to use the foil sentiments. But I originally thought that I would put her and him on a card together, and we would use the Let's Party sentiment. I was thinking that would be kind of fun, but I actually wind up going in a different direction. So next we've got Drac, and we're going to get to assembling him. He has got similar eyebrows and cheeks and eyeballs just like the rest of them, and we're going to get those assembled on here. And because this is kind of a longer video, I went ahead and cut all that out because you've seen me do all of that already a couple of times, and I wanted to show you his hair because it's got great etched detail in it. And so I'm going to get it laid down on his head, and we're going to get to assembling his parts so that you can check him out. So here he has got a big cape, And we've also got his body, and this is a body similar to that I was talking about with Frank. And so I knew that I needed that would just be the body piece. And I wanted some of it to show out, so I did use the same fog cardstock that I used for his head, for his body there. And we're just going to get him positioned. There is a nice little detailed line on there, so you can see where to position his face so that everything fits nicely on there. And then I have just used some mirror cardstock for his arms and his jacket as well. And I thought the way that this cape was on here that it might be best to go ahead and lay the sleeves on there first, so that's what I'm doing. And then we'll get his jacket laid down on here. Now his jacket has a V, and I had it laying in the opposite direction there, so I realized I needed to get it turned around. So we're going to tuck it up in there, and then the two of them create a buttonhole. And so I'm just going to get them laid down on there. I tuck them up underneath his chin, and we'll get that position on there. And then one of my bats was escaping, so I had to move it. Now this is the little bow tie. I used some poppy cardstock to die cut this out, and I'm going to put some foam on it because it's going to kind of lay down in there underneath that metallic a little bit lower. And so I felt like I needed to pop it up so it would lay flat on top of the metallic. So we're just going to, I just created a teeny tiny foam square, and I'm just going to tuck it in there, and that'll help it to lay flat on that metallic, but it is attached to that fog underneath there. And then there's a tiny little knot to that bow, and so I put a little dab of glue on there, and I'm going to get that knot laid down on there. And that is our little drac, and we're going to get his little hands on there. I die cut those out in the fog as well. And you can see, now I don't notice this until I go to, I don't know when I noticed it, but you can see that that metallic cardstock has slid. When I laid it down on there, it was lined up, but you can see right here's where I notice it. And so I'm just going to pry it up there and take my scissors and snip that away. What happened was it shifted because I was using that metallic, and it takes a minute to glue. So I'm just going to pull that out, and that'll take care of that little problem. So we've had some problems on today's video, but we can always overcome them. There's always a way to fix it. So there we go. And he has got a gold cup. I think I called it a goblet. I think it's a chalice. I don't know. I did some Googling and was trying to find it. I think it's a chalice is what it is, because a chalice is kind of a ritual cup, and I think that Dracula would probably have a cup like that. So I think that's what it's called, but I think I called it a goblet earlier. Couldn't think what to call it. Anyway, this moon is, I die cut it out of a piece that I had put some splotches on, and I had already actually embossed it with a detail, but I went ahead and ran it through this. So my moon's got a little bit more detail than what the die actually has some great detail to it, but mine's got some embossing on there that really doesn't belong, but I wasn't going to waste that. So next we're going to move right on to Sir's skeleton, and we're going to get him assembled. And he has got a top hat, and I've got some poppy cardstock for the band I'm going to get laid down there. And I don't know what happened with my top hat, but my brim separated from the top of it on one side, but I'm going to work with it. I'm able to get it laid down there, and it works just fine. I get it glued down, and you can't tell what happened. So I'm getting all of my little bones die cut out, or pulled out of my cardstock. They all kind of stayed in there, and I was like, well, that's handy. Keep them all together. And so I just left them on there and thought we'd just pull them apart when we get ready to work with them. And so I'm just getting all my little bones. You've got rib cage, you've got a pelvic area, you've got 2 legs, you've got 2 arms and 2 hands, and then the skull. And there's a piece where you assemble everything. And I do this wrong, so I'm going to point it out to you. We're going to get his nose laid down on there. His eyes are going to go on top, but the nose, it looks like an upside down heart. And the nose looks like an upside down heart, and the piece that you use looks like a bigger one. So I've got the whites of the eye. I went ahead and did them, even though I used, the fog cardstock for the bones and for the eyes, just so that they would have more dimension. And then we've got the mirrored cardstock for the black layer. And then this guy has got a eyeglass with a chain on it. So we'll get that laid on there. I use some gold treasured cardstock for that. And we'll get these eyes laid down on there. And there is our skeleton's head. And here's his reading glass. So I'll just glue it up and get it connected on there. And then we'll lay this aside and we'll start working on the body. Trying to keep it clean because we've got mirrored black and we've got mirrored gold here. So I'm just trying to use the tiniest bit of glue to work with there. And there we go. And you can see he's got a bow tie as well, and I've used the poppy red. So I'm going to pair those two together for the third card that we're going to make that I didn't picture in the opening of the video. So just getting everything positioned, and then here's his hat. We're going to get it on there. I'm just going to put some glue on there, and this is where the side is split, and so you can see it right there, and I'm going to push it together. So I'm bringing it up close, and I'm just pushing those two pieces together and getting them glued so that it's not split. I'm not sure if I had laid it in an area of my mirrored cardstock that I'd already die cut out of, and that's what happened, which it probably is because I was using scraps for the mirrored cardstock. That's why I used it, because I had several scraps of it. And I thought, well, I'll use them up. Now, this is where I get off course here. The ribs need to be laid lower. I'm thinking that piece up there at the top is where the ribs need to lay, and I lay it on there. I'll later tear it apart. That piece up there is what you should attach your head to, that circle thing. And then I'm going to get the legs on there. And they almost kind of look like little brooms just because of the little feet, the way they are, but it's just the little legs and the little toes and everything. And we'll get them. See, the toes just kind of look almost like a broom, but they are to the toes. Anyway, so I'm going to get them on the pelvis area, and then I'm going to get my shoulders laid on there, and I'm going to look at it and figure out that perhaps I've got my ribs in the wrong area. I don't think I figure it out until after I do this. I'm going to attach these two together. And you could make your arms, I'm making them go up. You could make them go down like they have their hands on their waist. This is called Halloween Hugs collection. I think it's because their arms are all positioned in a huggy way on the packaging, but you could certainly twist those hands down and put them on their hips if you wanted to, because you're just laying it on a piece there. Now I am attaching it to the shoulder area on the ribs, so when I go to pull it off so that I have it in the right spot so that I can add the head, those pieces will just pull off with it because they're actually attached to the rib cage. I'm just getting at a press. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's no place to add the head. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So this is where I realized you've got to pull this off. So I'm working my tweezers up under the ribs, between the ribs and I guess the spine. And there, it broke free. So I'm going to put a dab of glue on there, add my skull, and then we'll get the ribs positioned. So don't do what I do. Do it correctly the first time and you won't have to fix it. But there we go. So Sir Skeleton is coming together. And we've got his red bow tie that we need to add. And his bow tie apparently doesn't have the knot on there. If it did, I missed that piece. So that'll pretty much finish off Sir Skeleton, and we're ready to move on. So I took a break and figured out what I was going to do with these. Was I going to make tags? Was I going to make cards? What I'm going to do? I decided on 3 cards, and I'm going to bring in the Damask 3D embossing folder of Simon Hurley's to just add a little background to this gray panel here, and so that we have a little bit of interest behind our gal. We're going to frame her out. I've got that frame there. I used the color block accent arches, and these are fun. I got those. I used them once, put them away, and I've been using them more and more because I'm liking them. And so I created an arch with a color block for my Frank, and I used the remaining panel for her and then just layered a white arch. I'm also using my Perfect Touch arches for these, and I'm going to use a little window for her. I'm cutting this down so that the gray doesn't show behind there because I want the window, I want a white edge around there with my card base. And so I'm going to put some foam on there. We're going to pop it up, and then she's going to kind of be peeking out of almost like a window look. And I like the white and the orange together. I think it's a nice little addition of color to her that, you know, she doesn't really have on her already. But it is just kind of brings in that Halloween color scheme. So I'm having glue problems. I brought in a different bottle of glue. It's not wanting to come out. I took the lid off, and boy howdy, we're getting it out now. So I'm going to lay that down on there. We're going to have a white frame on there, and then we're going to add our little sweet, wickedly sweet girl to our scene here. I took that white Hero Hues ink and embossed that panel just to make the pattern pop a little bit. We've got some foam on her. We're going to have her peeking out of this window. I tucked the bottom of her in and then kind of let her hands hang out over it. We're going to bring her broom in and lay it down. And then I'm going to add the Happy Halloween sentiment. Wasn't sure where I was going to add it. I thought about the bottom, and then I thought we kind of had some open space up there at the top. So I just decided to bring it in and to lay it down on there. We've got Happy Halloween, and that is our wickedly sweet girl. Super fun. I hope I do get a chance to work with her as a princess. Now I've got the color block here I'm showing you. That's where that piece came from. I took some of my Spellbinders, I think that's fern cardstock, or either that or rainforest, and I created a card base, and then I've got some more cardstock from Spellbinders here that I'm going to layer up the lighter green and the orange, and we're just going to create just a fun little area for our Frank to land. I did use some white cardstock on this. Everything else in the video is fog, but I did use white for this. And we're just going to create a little area for Frank to land, and we'll get our arches laid down on our card base. And then we'll begin adding him. So I've got the tombstone. I'm going to add it toward the bottom, and I'm going to kind of hug the edge there. I've got a lot of stuff I'm trying to fit in that small arch, and so I'll get that positioned. And I'm going to get him positioned. But I think I'm going to bring in my sentiment first because I want to use Trick or Treat. And I thought I better figure out where I want that to be. So I'm going to go ahead and get it laid down, and then we'll add Frank where we want him to go. And I thought it would kind of hide the fact that he doesn't have any legs. And so we'll get that layered up there. We'll put some foam tape on him and get him laid down. Super fun. This is a really fun set. So he's got the little pumpkin basket. We'll put that in his hand eventually, get him situated. So I'm going to get it on there how I want it, and then I'll just put a little glue underneath there just to hold it in place. Cleaning up the glue, and then we're going to make sure we fit one more time. I'm going to put some foam squares on the back of it, and then we'll get him laid down. I tried to cut out some of that redundant stuff that's not really necessary to see. And I put some glue on there so I can wiggle it a little bit and put some glue where the foam isn't. And we'll give him a press. And now I'm using, he has the spiders in his collection, but I also die cut out extra bats when I was die cutting out Drac. And so I'm going to use one of the bats to fill in some of this white space. And then I am going to add an extra spider. We've got one on the tombstone. We're just going to put one up here in the white area. And then I'm going to bring in some black gems and just kind of fill in some more of that white and just add a little more shine to it. Kind of pairs nicely with our mirrored hair that we've got going on there. And then that will finish off Frank. Next up, we've got Sir Skeleton and Drac. And I've decided to make a 5x7 card and add these two together. I'll tell you, I sat and looked at the 4 of these for a minute and thought about making a picture with them, like a decorative Halloween picture with them. And I didn't have a frame, and I was contemplating going to the store and buying a frame so I could lay them on there. I think you could take these and make a really fun Halloween, piece of artwork for your Halloween season. I think they'd be super cute. The way I had them laid out on my mat made me think of it. I thought, wow, you could line these up and have kind of a long, narrow, picture and have all the characters on there, and you could add like Happy Halloween to it and just make a little picture. I think that would be super fun. I may have to try that. Anyway, so we're going to get Sir Skeleton laid down on here. And we've got the moon. We're going to have our bats. Now, I want to put this sentiment on here to kind of cover up the fact that he doesn't have any legs. So I'm going to do You're Wicked Cool. I think that's fun. And we're going to I'm going to use some double-sided tape. I was tired of the mirrored cardstock not sticking and moving around on me, so I just brought in some double-sided tape, and I thought I'm going to get that positioned, and then I can just glue up everything and lay it down on there, and everything will be where it belongs. And then we'll add some glue to the moon. At this point, I'm fighting my glue, so I just took it off camera and put a big glob of glue on there. And then we're going to bring in our bats, and I was able to get that fine point glue to work for these little pieces, which was great. So we'll just glue them up. And this is our third card. We didn't show it in the intro, but I think it's super fun. I'm going to put a little glue underneath Sir Skeleton's hand, get him attached. And then I think we've got all of our elements on our card here, but I've got those extra sentiments. I was looking at some gems thinking I might add them, but I've got those extra sentiments, and I thought I didn't put sentiments on the insides. So we're going to add the sentiments to the insides of all the cards. For this one, I'm choosing Your Fang-tastic because Drac has got some fangs. So we're going to lay that down on there. And we've got You're Wickedly Cool and Your Fang-tastic. And then we have got Trick or Treat on our Frank card, and we've got Happy Haunting that we're going to put on the inside of it. And I think you can write on that dark green cardstock. If you have a black pen, you'll be fine. And then for our Happy Halloween, we're going to put Hey Boo on the inside of it. And then we're going to have the insides of all three of our cards done. And I think it's a super fun set. I hope you like it. If you did, I've got a playlist here that you could see some more videos, and I've taken some pictures so that you can get some close-ups. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe. If you like the content, I would love for you to hit that like button. It sure does help out my channel. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.